Here, now you can see I put it, it's nobody sees it. I just, this way I can edit it easier on YouTube.
Okay.
So that's why. You see our mugs?
Oh, that's nice. Lovely.
Nobody sees it. I just, this way I can edit it easier.
I love it. It looks great.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now if you want, get yourself a cup of tea too, or go to the bathroom. I just like to make sure, because if there are problems, I'd rather do it now.
Okay, I'll go.
I open it up to the public about 3-4 minutes before the time.
Okay, great. I'll go and get some water and I'll come back.
Perfect. See you in a minute.
Okay, see you.
Okay, and in the follow-up email, I'm just going to send the link, or is there anything else you want me to put in the follow-up email?
The link to my website if they want to order the book, and that's it, I think. Yeah.
Okay. If there's anything else, just let me know. I send it 24 hours later. So.
Okay.
Here we go. Oh, I need to take these off because. Okay. Hi.
Hi, Dora.
I have not seen you in so long. I feel like it's been forever. Welcome back from Florida.
Hi, thank you. Hi, welcome. Sibel or Sibel? How do you say your first name?
It's Sibel.
Sibel, okay.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure. I'm really excited for this.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm too.
And are you in Istanbul now?
No, I'm in Paris.
In Paris, that's where you live?
Yes, I live in Paris. I mean, I go back and forth, but most of the time I'm in Paris.
Yes.
But I was born in Istanbul, raised there, lived there for about 30 years. Then because of my husband's job, we moved to Europe and we are going a little bit around.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there a large Turkish Jewish community in Paris?
Oh, it's no, not really. The French, I mean, the Jewish French are especially from Morocco, Algeria, you know, the Turkish is a very small group. Yeah. And in Turkey, we are only about 10,000 people now. So it's becoming really a small community.
Yeah, it keeps on going down. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Where do they go mostly? Where do they move to?
It depends. The young people move to the US or UK or around Europe. Some go to Israel. In the last years, many go to Israel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. It's close.
Yes, that's right. And you are based where?
New York.
New York.
Yeshiva University is in Manhattan. I live a little bit outside.
Okay.
And I was in Istanbul only for a very short. We had a stopover. We made it into 3 days. We loved it. This was in 2014 or so. A lot of protests happening, but it was that was around the Taksim Square. Yes. Fascinating. We went to the Boykada and yeah. So it was really my kids loved it. They talk about it all the time.
Yeah, it's a lovely city. I mean, it is chaotic a little bit because it's a very big city and traffic and all this, but there's so much to see. I mean, culturally, socially, I mean,
so much history there.
Every corner is good. It's like a whole other story. It's
right.
Yeah. It reminded me of Israel from that perspective, you know, where every stone is just layers and layers, right?
That's right. That's right. It's as you say, it's full of history. And in terms of food, it's a great city also.
My God. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna open it up. I'm just letting you know,
Okay.
continue to talk. I'm just, yeah, no, it's nice to keep talking. It's okay. I'm just letting you know that people will be
very
joining.
good. Yeah, and my family went from Eastern Europe to Cuba, and Cuba, the community was half and half, and either Polaco or Turco. So I grew up with a lot of, and then in Miami, I grew up with a lot of Turkish Jews. There's a very beautiful Kehillah on Miami Beach that's basically founded by Cuban Turkish Jews. Yeah.
No, I mean, all these people who left for Cuba, and I visited Cuba a few years ago, around 5 years ago. And it was really nice. They had this little synagogue, and people told me about Cuban Jewish dishes. And one of them is in my cookbook also.
Oh, excellent. Which one? Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, I remember it's something where they use the leftover rice to do some kind of patties, some kind of meat, something like that.
Croquetas or something.
Interesting.
Yeah, a lot of rice.
Yes, lots of rice and beans.
The Cuban cuisine, it's funny because it actually, you can make it kosher, not with, obviously you have to avoid the ham, and which is very prominent, but and a lot of it has a lot of Andalusian influence. The arroz con pollo is very much like a paella, and it has like that, I don't know if you had ever like picadillo, which is like chopped meat. They often put in cumin, cinnamon, raisins, olives. I mean, it sounds very,
Mediterranean.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be at home in many places. So it's interesting, those things kind of.
Yeah. And there's so much, I wrote that in the book also, there's so much, let's say, sisterhood between and among all these countries and all this Jewish food from around the world. I mean, there's so many things that are similar. They have been affected with immigration, and they've been affected with the host countries, because when the Sephardim came to Turkey, of course, they were influenced by the Ottoman cuisine and all this geography. And it's really amazing when you go around the world and see how things are maybe different, but in a way similar.
Right. How do they?
Yeah.
Right. 100%.
Well, welcome everyone who's joining us. Please throw into the chat when you get a chance where you're signing in from. We always like to see where people are signing in from. Make sure to send it to everyone so everyone knows. It's nice to see people on time, although we do have a fairly large group registered today, so we're going to give everybody a few more minutes. So throw into the chat hello or something, or where you're signing in from. Like I said, I didn't do that yet. Here, I'll get it going. If I spell it correctly, I'll get it going. There we go. Throw it into the chat. Welcome, everyone. Hopefully it's a unique talk today. It's a little different. Oh, by the way, for next week, so that book I have here too. The one for the postcards.
Postcards. Oh, yeah. Wonderful.
And we have to talk about the panel, by the way, but that will at some point.
Vienna, wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
It's a city with a lot of Turkish Jewish history, actually, right?
Yeah, because everybody went through there. So it's
also publishing. There was a lot of publishing there. Ladino works, very interesting. Yeah.
Everybody's quiet. Okay, Panama. There we go. Oh, Raquel, we've seen you before. Nice to see you. I don't know, Zev, your name's in Hebrew. I'm assuming you're somewhere in Israel. I don't know. You don't have to tell us if you don't want to, but it's nice to see where people are signing in from. Do we not have New York today?
I guess I'm.
Oh, I love Vancouver.
Oh, that's great.
We'll give everybody, like I said, another 2-3 minutes. Oh, Seattle. That's a Turkish community.
Yeah.
That's like the known Turkish community.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you, Judy. Somebody from New York said. I was wondering. Didn't make sense to me. Nobody from New York. West Orange. Nice. I was in Livingston for a while. Okay. We already have a question. If you actually have a question, I'm trying to see whose hand is up, then throw it into the chat. Jack, if you throw it into the chat, that's better for right now, and we'll encourage you to open your microphones and cameras later. Okay. Oh, there you go. Oh, to New York City? Wow. From Turkey to New York? Does Turkey have a significant?
Yeah.
I mean, does New York City have a significant?
Of course. Sure. Yeah. They just they didn't say as concentrated as New York, you know.
Oh, they went to Seattle. Thanks, Judy. That made more sense to me. No judgment here, just facts. That's the okay, another minute or two. Yeah, you see people are slowly coming in.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just arrange one more thing. Oh, Ruth is saying she's a Pinto too. Ruth Axelrod Pinto.
Wow, that's great. We have so many Pintos from around the world. Portugal, Spain, Cuba, everywhere, France, Italy.
I don't think Ruth told us where she's signing in from. You have to tell us where you're signing in from. But Axelrod Pinto, so I don't know. Are you half? There you go, half. Okay, so we do like to be cognizant. We do like to make sure that people feel welcome as they come on time. So thank you all for coming. I don't know why I couldn't come up with that word, but that happens to me a lot. So thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being here. And on behalf of the American Sephardi Federation Institute of Jewish Experience, together with the Rabbi Arthur Schneier Program for International Affairs of Yeshiva University, we are so happy to have you all here join us today for this little bit of a different New Works Wednesday. I don't know if it's more practical, but it's a little more practical, a little less out there. So I hope that we all really learned something today and can apply it right afterwards. That's one of the goals for today. So I'm going to at least learn one thing and apply it, and I hope that we all will. And you will be receiving the link to order the book. It is self-published, so through a self-publishing company. So please do order it. I will send you the link. I do want to also call your attention to our new program that is out there. So please do notice that we have Reclaiming Identity. Our podcast series is now live. It's on Apple and on Spotify. So please look. You can also see them on our website. So I will definitely send you the link at that point. The first two went live last Thursday. The second two will go live tomorrow. Every Thursday we'll have 2 more. The first season has 10 episodes. So we hope you all join it. Please do visit our website anyway, because we have all of our events coming up and we have membership options and we have all kinds of things there. So stop by our Facebook and our Instagram and our website and be in touch. You'll get my email as well. And with that, I want to hand one more technical thing, sorry. Questions, please throw into the chat and or the Q&A. I will be monitoring it, as will Professor Perellis. If most of them will be answered at the end, where we will encourage you to open your cameras and microphones. Please do. It's really nice to have the interaction at the end. I will invite you as a panelist. That does not mean that you need to present. That's just that you are asked to open your cameras. So please do. And also we'd love to hear, how you fit into this whole picture at that point. So now I will hand it over to Professor Perellis. Thank you, Chef Sibel, for coming, and Professor Perellis.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really excited for today's program. As Dora was saying, it is different than our normal, very scholarly, archive-heavy presentations. But anyone who knows a little bit about the history of food understands that whatever's in front of you on your plate, whether it's for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, tells a story of where the products came from, and the history behind that, and the layers to the flavors and to the spices and to the way that they're cooked and the processes. And when you're aware of that, I think so many other parts of your life become richer and become much more interesting, and you realize how things are connected in ways you never could before. So it's really my honor to introduce Chef Sibel Pinto, who is a chef, culinary instructor, researcher, author, and lecturer specializing in Sephardi, Turkish, and Mediterranean cuisines. As a World Chef Certified Sustainability Education to Culinary Professionals, and Argo Tech Paris Certified Food Waste Prevention Trainer, food waste activist, coach, and consultant, she teaches how to give a second life to ingredients. This is something that our forebears were all very, very good at by necessity, and learned how to make great things from scraps. And so it's really exciting for you to focus on this. Using the root to leaf approach, she works to raise awareness in food waste reduction and sustainable and conscious kitchens. She educates and inspires people to eat real food, and I'm really excited to learn from her today. So thank you very much. And yes, I'll repeat that please put questions in the chat. We will have time to talk at the end of the session. And thank you so much for being a part of this.
It's all you now, Chef Sibel.
Okay, thank you so much. Everybody, hello. We are from different parts of the world, so the timing, I don't know who is where, but for some of you it's morning, noon, or afternoon, or evening. Hello to everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm really very excited and honored to share my work here. The topic will be the food waste challenge. And the order of the talk will be, I'll give you a little bit of the global view, and then I'll talk about some examples and why we are wasting so much. And then I will continue with my Kashkarikas mission, which started in 2016. I'm going to tell you what that all is about. And then I'll go with my book, which has also the same name. And then we'll talk about suggestions, questions, and we'll see how this will take us. So now I'm going to start by sharing my screen. Let's go. Okay, and I'll put it into this form. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, so let's start with what is food waste. Food waste, in fact, is the organic residue generated by the processing, handling, storage, sales, preparation, cooking, and serving of food. So it has many different aspects. And it refers to wasting things, not using them correctly, which are in fact safe and nutritious for human consumption. And it starts from primary production to end household consumer level. Food waste is really a highly visible and urgent challenge that's gaining importance worldwide, and we are talking more and more in the last few years. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, 1/3 of all food produced globally goes to trash. This means like you are going into this supermarket, you are doing your shopping, and you are coming out with 3 big bags. And when you are walking to your car in the parking lot, you decide to throw away into the trash bin one of those bags. It's 1/3 of all production that's either lost or wasted. To give you a more tangible example, an area larger than China is used to grow food that's never eaten. And of course, wasting food is not only wasting food, because we are also wasting the energy, the water, and the human input that's going into producing that food. So, for example, another number is 25% of world fresh water supply is used to grow food that's never eaten. And if food waste was a country, it would be the 3rd largest emitter of greenhouse gases on the planet after China and USA. So these are really strong numbers. Where I do these presentations, I always feel, oh my God, look at these numbers. I mean, how are we doing? This is like really a big food scandal in the world. And on the other side, we see that we have so many people who are not able to eat or who go to bed hungry every night. So this 1/3 of all food produced globally comes to 1.3 billion tons of food production, which is wasted every year, 1.3 billion tons. And to give another example is, if you have 40-ton trucks, 23 million of them, bumper to bumper, enough to circle the earth 7 times, that's the food that we are wasting every year around the world. And we know that around 820 million people do not have enough to eat. That makes about 1 in 8 people around the world who go to bed hungry every night. And I think this is really a shame for humanity, throwing away food, whereas so many are hungry. And let's see a little bit about how the world, different countries are doing. We see that the total food waste per year in tons, it's the first one is China because of the population, it's a big country. India and USA is the 3rd place, and here in France we are on the 6th place, which is really very, very high. And on the right side, you see the little yellow ones, and that's the food waste per capita, that's the kilograms. Even though China is the first one, per capita is much bigger in France, for example, because of course, the production and the population. In France, we are wasting 10 million tons. This is the household food waste. And in general, we are wasting 10 million tons of food. In the European Union, it is 100 million tons. And US is also very high on the scale, about $100 billion loss every year. So waste is in fact everywhere. The waste takes place throughout the whole food supply chain, in production, cultivation, harvest, processing, sales, transportation, distribution, markets, restaurants, and the end user. So it's from farm to fork. And what are we wasting the most? First, who is wasting the most? Let me say that. The households is about 61% of the loss. Then we have the food service and the retail, and we have about 121 kilograms of annual per capita food wastage. And what we are wasting most is, as you can see in this screen, it is fruits and vegetables, about 45%, roots and tubers. That is because the fresh fruits and vegetables have shorter life cycles. That's why we are losing them more. Then we have fish, although fish is not on the consumer side, it's more on the catching, poor storage conditions, inefficient methods of cold chain problems. And then we have 30% cereals, that's bakery, mostly bread and cakes. Then we have 20% dairy and meat. As you say, it's a little bit less, although it's 1/5. I mean, it's a big number also, but because it's more expensive, we value more, let's say like that, the meat and the dairy. So, for example, this was a picture that I took a few years ago around the supermarket that I do my shopping. Most of them are edible waste. I mean, it's possible to eat them in good conditions. They are nutritious and they are hygienic. You don't have to throw them, but at the end of the day, unfortunately, they were throwing it all away. I'll give another example around bread. In the United Kingdom, it's the most wasted household food item. It's about 24 million slices go to trash every day. And a question for you, have you ever wondered what happens to all the crusts that don't end up in the crustless sandwiches that you see or buy in supermarkets or stores? In the UK, we have a great activist who is working on food waste. He's called Tristram Stewart, and he discovered in a single sandwich manufacturer that they were wasting 13,000 slices of fresh day bread every day because the retail customer required it to remove the crust and the first slices on each side of each loaf, adding up to 17% of the bread loaf going to waste every day and only in one factory. That can be a food waste scandal. So why? Why are we wasting so much? Of course, there are different factors, as I mentioned before, from farm to fork, and every different actor has different reasons for this. But overall, there is more production than needs. There is also the cosmetic standards, which I'm going to talk a little bit later on. And there is people's attitude towards food, which is really very important. I love to share this. The United Nations Environment Program, the UNEP, publishes every year the Food Waste Index report. And in a survey, they asked people if they shopped, even if they had food at home, and 80% said, yes, I go on shopping, even if I have food at home. And in another question, they said, do you shop more than you need? And 50% of people said, yes, I do shop. So it's not only and also it's not the only problem in rich countries, because it's relevant in high, upper middle or lower middle income countries also. If you would like to see this report, it's really nice. It's Food Waste Index report, and you can find it on internet to have more ideas about this. So as I said before, it's not only food, it's also energy, water, and human input that's being wasted. And we are talking a lot in the last years about the climate crisis, and Road On organization says that number one solution to fighting climate crisis is reducing food waste. This is before using electrical cars, solar power, or plant-based diets. So that's really very important. So wasting food is not only an ethical, social, economical, and humanitarian issue, but it also depletes our environment of limited natural resources. So it's such a huge injustice. And at this point, I said to myself, I had to react and do something. So that's how Action Kasharikas was born. I have been in the food business for more than 20 years now, and I was deeply concerned to see how much of this food was wasted in the kitchens I worked. And it was the case in the companies, in canteens, in schools, hospitals, prisons, all these fresh vegetables, fruits, bread, bakery that was put into trash, whereas it was completely possible to turn them into delicious and healthy food. Most waste generated was actually not waste at all. It was perfectly safe, hygienic, and nutritious to eat. And I was standing somewhere in this chain. So I said to myself, we cooks have the opportunity to have a significant impact on reducing food waste at the source. So what can I do? You may say, okay, you are one person, what are you going to do? But I was thinking small changes in our lives add up. I'm a strong believer of this. And I decided to initiate an international non-profit action to raise awareness, and that was year 2016. And we decided to show ways how to improve practices, attitudes, to teach. And wherever you go to teach, you learn, and to share best practices and become make a most enjoyable dining experience of these things that we normally throw away. So we wanted to prevent food waste, to show all these ways to improve practices and to strengthen the sustainability of the food system. So that's how my mission in 2016 was born, and it was called Action Kasharikas, which I'm going to talk to you a little bit later what Kashkarikas is. And I decided to base all this mission on my Sephardic culinary heritage, because I'm coming from a culture where food has value. It was considered, and it's still considered, a blessing. My parents urged me to finish everything on my plate or take only the amount that I can finish. Both of my grandmothers cooked for large families and with limited budgets. That was the case, in fact, of all women of a generation. They had to be creative, they had to be intelligent, and they had to use all the bits and pieces. And they didn't have the luxury to throw them away. Out of pure necessity, that was the case at the time, they were ingenious in their uses of stale bread, for example, sour milk, lemon rinds, or they used offals a lot. And all of these delicious, iconic dishes of an era came, in fact, of this wasteless philosophy, like bread pudding, bread soups, cottage pies, panzanellas, chicken liver pate, rice fritters, polenta, frittadas, fruit liqueurs, etc. So I said, if you want to reduce waste, then look at our grandmothers. They are the #1 ecologists, in fact. And today people may think, oh, this wasteless kitchen, it can be a passing culinary trend, but it really is the basis of cuisine. How do we make these traditions accessible to everyday eaters? The first step is simple. You have to cook. You have to go into the kitchen and you have to cook. Even something very basic, but you have to cook it yourself to see it, and you have to teach your children to see it, or your grandchildren. So going back to our roots, to our culinary heritage, that slow food mentality, in fact, we are not discovering America, it's all there. So this is the Kashkarikas. So Kashkarikas is a dish which my grandmother Eliza used to make. In fact, I'm going to make a parenthesis here. My maternal grandmother had Sephardic origins, and she came from a family from Spain. And my paternal grandmother had roots from Georgia. And my father's family was Aramic speaking family, and she had a different kind of cuisine, but both of my grandmothers really used everything in the kitchen, and that was very important for me because I grew up with my grandmothers, and we went to the kitchen to cook together. So Kashkarikas is a dish which my grandmother Eliza used to make, and the name comes in fact from Kashkaras, which is a Spanish word. In fact, all the Sephardic people who were expelled from Spain and Portugal, who came and settled down in the Ottoman Empire, they brought with themselves their cooking traditions, their language, the Ladino or the Jewish Spanish, and they brought their music also. And the word comes, as I said, from Kashkaras, which means peels. And my grandmother used to use the zucchini, and she cooked like a kind of a gratin, a pie, in the oven, and she didn't throw away the peels of those zucchinis, and the peels turned into a dish which is called Kashkarikas. And it's a dish where we use olive oils, fresh lemon juice, lots of fresh herbs like dill, and we cook all these peels to make a meze kind of dish, which is really delicious. And when I started my mission, I said I'll call this mission Kashkarikas because, in my opinion, it's the emblem dish of the traditional Turkish-Sephardi cuisine, using these peels of zucchini. And this was also a tribute to my grandmother Eliza and to all the women who put their hearts to feed their families with little and low-cost ingredients to create tasty food with all these bits and pieces that we normally throw away. So this was, in a way, my thought was transmission of my heritage, the Sephardim in Turkey, because they're becoming really a very small community now. And the cuisine, I think, has to be protected and has to be transmitted to new generations. So that was my starting point to have to call this mission Kashkarikas, and afterwards, of course, to put this all in the book, which is also called Kashkarikas. In this mission, what we tried to do was, I was in contact with other chefs, associations, restaurants, cooking schools, and I went around the world. I visited many countries where I was invited, and I went there and I tried to do giving conferences, doing workshops, and organizing fundraising dinners. We worked with all these local partners in each country and directly with the consumer, and we used the local ingredients. We cooked together, we taught, we learned, as I said, and we tried to show how you can eat healthy, save money, and contribute to the environment. So that was a mission of raising awareness and working together, showing that we can make small changes that collectively have a big impact for a better world. So another one that I'm going to talk about is a little anecdote also. These are the leek greens, the green parts of the leeks, which I found in a supermarket where I was doing my shopping. I saw this big trash bin, and it was full of the green parts of the leeks. And I saw that people were coming in, they were picking up the leeks, and they were cutting the green parts and throwing them into this dish, into this trash bin. And I said, what are they doing? And I asked the guy who was in charge of that, that part, and he said, the French don't eat the greens. We don't eat them, he said. So why? I said, because they're not tasty, we don't use them. We only use the white part of the leeks. I was so astonished because we have another emblematic dish in the Sephardic cuisine where we use the green parts of the leeks. We mix them with a little bit meat, so lots of greens, a little bit of meat, so it's really an economical dish. And we make these leek meatballs, which are really delicious. And I said to the guy, I want to get these greens and I will show you how you can use them. He looked at me, okay. I said, I want to buy them. He said, no, don't buy, just take them away. We don't need them. And I said, I'm going to bring you a dish tomorrow with the greens that I'm going to do. And the next day I went to the supermarket and I brought them these Sephardic leek meatballs, which is so delicious. We usually do them for Passover or New Year's Rosh Hashanah also. And he was so astonished, and he called all his colleagues in the supermarket and said, the lady brought us this, and do you know what she made? She made them from the leeks, the green parts of the leeks that we are throwing away. So this is an anecdote that I love to share because it shows if you don't know how to use the ingredients to do it, right, then you are missing such good flavors and tastes. So I'll tell you a little bit about the law in France. As I'm living in Paris, and I'm really know about the French laws. In 2016, a municipal councillor whose name is Arash Derambash he identified the cause of food waste in supermarkets, and after many efforts, after many years of working on that, he managed to get the law adopted in February 2016, and the law said forced the markets, in fact, to donate unwanted food to charity and to food banks, because before the markets used to pour bleach over unsold food, and they were, they were all wasting all this. So it's really a nice narrative. If you would like to check his narrative, he's on YouTube, and he says how he realized the paradox of food waste and hunger, and he declares it's scandalous that food is wasted in this way, and in some cases deliberately spoiled, whereas it can be perfectly edible. And he's a guy who has Iranian origins, and he talks about how he knew what hunger meant, and how he was so astonished when he moved from Iran to France to see how people are wasting so much food. And let me give you a few more examples, and then I'll go into the book. For example, this is the ugly fruits and vegetables. They're called ugly fruits and vegetables. In my opinion, they are beautiful. And one of the main reasons of the wastefulness is our demand for totally unblemished and perfectly calibrated fruits and vegetables, the cosmetic standards for color, shape, weight, and size. And this, of course, leaves lots of edible produce rotting in the fields, discarded by supermarkets and restaurants, and mostly avoided by consumers. Now, this cosmetically imperfect produce is perfectly edible and delicious, in fact, and so we have to rescue them. And there are very nice examples in the world. For example, a Carolina-based startup dehydrates and produces these products into sweet potato, pumpkin, or beet flour that appeal to consumers who are gluten-free. You can use overripe bananas or bruised apples or weirdly shaped carrots. I mean, you can use them if you are doing breads, pies, stews, or marmalades, jams, etc. It is not important if they look ugly. In fact, they are not ugly. And in the last years, the consumers are growing more comfortable with the concept of ugly produce. So I really find them very beautiful, in fact. So there are many, many applications and other examples of different things that are getting, in the last years are getting more and more common, like Too Good To Go is an application where they match for example, the bakery at the end of the day, if he has some sandwiches or pastries that he couldn't sell during the day, and if you have the application and you see that bakery is giving a 30% off of this, of the product that he wants to sell. So it's win-win. There are Frigo Magic, which is another application that's really nice. There's Olio, which is also a community to share food. There are disco soup days where the young people get all the products that are at the end of the market. For example, at the end of a farmer's market, they get all that product and they make a soup and they distribute to the needy. So there are really many, many things in the last years that are going up and up. So to give you maybe some tips and tricks, as I always say, we have the power to stop this tragic waste of resources. And it, of course, depends in many planning, shopping, storage, cooking, and if we cannot use them, of course, composting. One of the things I mostly do in my fridge is I do a box and I call it Eat Me First box. If you have some ingredients that are maybe a little bit tired or that have short expiry date, try to use them at the beginning so you don't forget them at the end of at the back of your fridges. And it's very important to organize refrigerators, to use your freezers, which are really important, to have a nutrition education for children, and being a little bit creative of what you can do with things that you have leftovers or the things that I said before, like jellies from apples, soups, stocks, chips, salts, omelette, quiches, cakes from rests, stale bread. That's very important to do. So many, we always have so many stale bread at home. And these are the tips and tricks that are in my book. So I'll give you a little bit, I'll go to my book a little bit and talk about it. So at the end of this mission, when COVID started, in fact, I was going to go on with the mission for a few more years, but unfortunately, when COVID started in 2020, I really had to stop traveling. I couldn't do that. I tried to do some Zoom meetings. I still do some demos from my kitchen. But at the end, I said, you have a really great compilation of all these recipes that you have from your family background, plus in the countries that I visited, because in those countries also we learned so much from how they were cooking and how they were using some ingredients that we really didn't think about it. So I said I will put all these recipes and the stories into a book, and it's called Kashkarikas, Wasteless Kitchen, a Turkish-Sephardi chef's recipes and stories. As I said, it has Sephardic recipes from my other grandmother, Aramaic recipes, of course, Turkish recipes, and all the other compilations from around the world. In fact, my recipes are full of comfort, memories, and feelings. And this is the cover photo. This is the back cover. For example, this is a dish. I will show it like this because I show you the Kashkarikas, the traditional style, and it was a different interpretation of Kashkarikas where I tried to use some edible flowers, but it's still the peels of the zucchini, so it was a different touch. So in the book also there are all these traditional recipes and also some recipes that I wanted to put my chef's touch, let's say. Some modernized and some fusion recipes are also in the book. The book has 222 recipes. It's a 300 pages book. It's a big, heavy book. And the recipes are divided into 60 main ingredients. So it's easy for the reader to find what she's looking for. For example, if you have used some parsley and you don't know what to do with the stems of the parsley, you can go under parsley section and see what you can do with the leftover stems. It's the same thing for stale bread. There's a big part of stale bread, and there are lots of fresh vegetables and fruits that you can use and do different recipes with that. And of course, to transmit to new generations, to respect the environment and to give a second life to ingredients is one of my main things that I wanted to do with this book. So I'll show you a few pages from the book. First, for example, this part is the Turkish coffee biscotti. Biscotti is something that Italian. It means 2 times ovened cookies. And I gave a little different touch in this one with the Turkish coffee because normally it's not the Turkish coffee that's used. On the right side, I have cousin Lily's sharope. Sharope is, in fact, a fondant-like how would say, a dessert that we also do that during Passover. And this is a different touch because we use some instant coffee with that. Normally we use only rinds of lemon or oranges, but this is a different touch with using some coffee. So these 2 recipes are really for coffee lovers, let's say. And then I have another dish here, which is beet monochrome. I really like the style in the kitchen where we can use contrast together, like sweet and sour, like hot and salty, like creamy soft texture with some crunchiness. And with this logic, I often like to marry raw and cooked together on the same plate, especially when I work with the same ingredient. And this is an example of a monochrome in two different recipes, but combined in one, where I use beetroots, and you can use some other vegetables also. And in the book, it's really, I try to underline that the recipes are not very, I mean, you have to do it like this. No, you don't have to do it like this. You can do it differently. You check your refrigerators. If you have something different, you can substitute before. I mean, they are not very, I mean, not doing it only one way. You can have other ways to do it. So I try to underline that. I always give tips. If you don't have this, you can do this. Or I always say, use your creativity and make the dish your own. So a few pictures of our mission where we went around. This was in Mexico. This was the beginning of the mission. And I worked with a very talented chef there, Chef Bosue. He was the personal private chef of the president of the Republic of Mexico. And he had his own restaurant where he invited me. And I went and we did a kind of a fusion Turkish-Mexican fundraising dinner there. And this was my event in Istanbul. I worked there with the Euro-Asia Chefs Association and with the University Gastronomy Department. And we had really a great donation there because, as I said, this mission was a charity mission. It was not for profit. It was completely non-profit. And the amounts that we collected were donated to Action Against Hunger. This association who works with children who are fighting hunger and malnutrition. We have different workshops with young people, with children, and we always have lots of fun doing these workshops to teach, especially the young generation. And they were going home and they were telling their parents, in fact, oh, Chef Pinto did this with parsley stamps. And this is cooking with peels. I work with this university in Istanbul where I always get invited and I try to show the gastronomy professionals how to cook with these scraps, peels, leaves, stems, seeds, and trimmings, which are not waste. They are edible food and you can use them in many different recipes. And it was this Action Against Hunger where we donated all this money for their charity, for this charity. And this is Smakun, which is the Malian 2-year-old boy, which was saved by the donations that they're getting from around the world. So I think this is the overall presentation that I wanted to share with you today. And my last words would be, you don't necessarily need expensive or luxurious ingredients to cook a nice meal. We have to think to use from root to leaf and to respect nature. That's very important. Try to be seasonal and local as much as possible. And as Chef Douglas McMaster says, he's a very nice, lovely chef who is doing a zero waste restaurant in the UK. And he says, waste is a failure of the imagination. Your waste can change the future. Don't throw your future to trash.
Thank you so much, Chef. This was
enlightening.
I'm hoping some questions will also help expand upon the different Sephardi materials that you used, especially as it pertains to Turkey. I know that when we were first talking about this, I mentioned about the leeks, that my Hungarian father said, we don't use the green of the leeks. That's the thing. It's the poor people use the green of the leeks. We have to show that we're not the poor people.
They say it's for the animals.
Well, he didn't like animals. So. Okay, so now is it easier if you look in the Q&A and the chat, or if I read it, or Professor Perez can read you? I'm inviting everybody now to open your cameras. So if you can stop sharing, Chef, please,
Okay.
so that we can see people.
Perfect.
And if you have a question, let us know. I freeze the greens of the leeks with other peels and make a vegetable broth. Okay.
That's perfect.
And there was a kind of a technical question here. How do you keep parsley and mint longer? Which are, I feel like mint, I don't know, growing up very Ashkenazi, we never used mint. That was just not a thing.
Wow. Oh, I love mint. You don't drink mint tea? No.
Now I do.
No, I mean at the time.
No.
No. Okay. All those fresh herbs, I mean, you either put them into ice cubes and put them in the freezer. And if you are going to use them, you can put an ice cube into your dish, for example, into your soup. Or if you don't want to freeze them, you have to put them into some paper towels in a little bag. But the paper towel is going to take the humidity, so it will take a little bit longer, so you can use them just like that.
And if you had to say what would be the signature dish that you I guess you said it with the name of the book, but what would be one ingredient that you couldn't cook without if you're trying to cook Turkish dishes?
Oh, that's going to be eggplant. Because we eat so much eggplant, we have around 150 different recipes with eggplant. That's really the queen of all vegetables. And if you are going to do Turkish food, you have to, it's also Sephardic, very Sephardic.
Yeah.
So I think it will be eggplant. Although I like zucchini very much, the eggplant is a little bit better for me.
Sibel?
Yeah, no, that's very much.
Speaking of that, could you explain a little bit from your view how you would separate Sephardic cuisine in Turkey from the regular Turkish cuisine? What are the things that make it Jewish? What are the things that are shared? Obviously, there's going to be a lot of shared, Could you talk a little bit about that?
Of course. In my when I was doing my master's thesis, I worked on this subject, and I wrote it on the 500 years of Turkish Sephardic cuisine in Turkey. In fact, because they, as I said, from the Inquisition, they brought with themselves all this culinary heritage from Spain. Of course, it was a Mediterranean kind of cuisine. And when they got to Turkey, to the Ottoman Empire, different parts of the empire, of course, they tried to keep these heritage with themselves. But of course, there was this reciprocal influence between these communities. The Jews, for example, gave the what is called pipitada or sübye. We say sübye in Turkish. It's a drink that we do from the seeds of melon. Have you heard of it? So the melon seeds are not wasted. The melon seeds are dried, and then they are put into some water, and you get like a milky drink. And with this drink, you finish your Yom Kippur. At the end of Kippur, you drink this. This is really very traditional. And this drink is now in Turkey very popular, and it's in the area of Izmir. So this is a reciprocal influence. I mean, this is the influence of the Jews who gave this recipe to the Turks. And of course, there is the other side also. The Turks also influenced how the Jewish people ate. But the main difference, to come to your question, could be the kashrut, because that's important. In Turkey, for example, you can eat some dolma, which is stuffed vegetables. We can do them from eggplant, zucchini, or bell peppers. It's stuffed with meat. And the Turks normally eat this with a cacık, with some yogurt beside. Whereas the Jewish will not do that. We usually do that, caramelize that stuffed vegetables. We put them in the oven with some sugar on top, so they are caramelized. That's a main difference, for example, as an example between the Turkish and the Jewish in Turkey.
And the Jews, do they have something substituting the yogurt, like tahina, or I don't know, something?
They may, but in Turkey, in Turkey we don't use lots of tahina. It's interesting. It's not very, very common. In the last years, of course, we are using it, but in traditional, for example, my grandmother's kitchen, she never used tahini, never. So it was, caramelized with a salad, maybe a side dish, but not with any sauce.
There's no sauce. Fascinating. Okay. Thank you. I think you see a lot of questions here.
Yeah, so Zev had a question. You want to just open your microphone and ask, Zev?
Good evening.
Good evening, Zev.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, thank you for this meeting. And it was a special, I met Sibel before many years in Jerusalem, and we're still in contact all those years, and I hope to see her soon. You promised me, Sibel, we will meet soon. What Sibel represents is tricky. In one hand, it's called to be economy, to make what's now is very popular, to make it's good for environment and see. But the techniques that she teach is come basically from I don't want to say poverty, but people don't have much. The Jewish cook is huge. It's totally a Jewish cook from Iran, a Jewish cook from Turkey or from Poland. It's totally different. But basically, the Jewish cook basically is not rich book. It's not rich kitchen because of the kashrut, and this is really huge story. Because. But the creation of the Jewish to make the bypass by the kashrut, but because of many reasons, is the wonderful of an event. And Sibel take it in very modern way, and as a professional so many years, and give it to the world. I wait a few weeks. At last, I got the books. I got 2 books. The book, if somebody don't know, the book very heavy. It's not a normal book. It's a book that used to do, if somebody know La Rose Gastronomique, it's like this.
It is a heavy book because it's like an encyclopedia.
Wait.
Normally, a cookbook has about 50 recipes. Now we are having 222 recipes. So it's really a big book.
You see, it's a heavy book. It's a heavy book. Thank you, Sibel. And
thank you.
What she said all the time. Listen, kosher, Jewish, and not waste. It's not mean that you can do great things. When I started to be a chef for many years, I thought that only the according to the French cuisine waste catastrophic, and only look for special asparagus from this is the good kitchen. No, it's not anymore. I understand the great restaurant and great make money of great restaurant, and from very simple things. What I teach all my clients, dish serve in a restaurant, and the dish is not make good money, is a bad dish. It's a bad dish. If I want to try to teach the new generation of chefs and people who make a business, don't be stupid like me that I wait for check applause. Yeah, you make a great food, how generous you are. Don't expect. Restaurant and factory, they have one purpose, to make money. If you want generosity, is another thing. If you want to help people,
I want to make sure we have time for other people also, because there were a few comments here.
Okay.
But thank you.
You're running the day. Thank you, Sibel. I expecting you.
Thank you, Zeb.
My-
Thank you very much.
Okay, so there are a few comments here, a little more, that we use tahina because you had spoken about tahina before. We use tahina only for breakfast with honey. So I don't know if you found that as well. And when you were talking about chopping herbs, adding olive oil, that was recommended also. I don't know if
That's a good idea. You can do the ice cubes with olive oil. That's really very great because the olive oil will keep the herbs fresh and you can use them whenever you want them.
That's what it says. So that's wonderful. I really appreciate this whole thing. I know that there are some comments here that they appreciate you. So thank you very much for this presentation.
Very much, Drora. It was really my pleasure to do this with you, and I'm very happy for all of you who participated and who came to listen to me. If you want to sign up to my newsletter, it's from my website because I share tips, recipes. I have some Instagram lives. I do them very regularly. So for those of you who are on Instagram, my page is Chef Sibel Pinto. I also have a live show every month where I host another chef and we cook from our respective kitchens. So you can see two chefs, two recipes in one program. If you want to order the book, it's really a limited edition and I have very few books left. So just hurry up and order it from my website. Please spread the word around. And if you want to invite me, I go everywhere I'm invited, to every country, to every city, or we can do Zoom classes, of course, and we can work with schools, associations, food banks, municipalities, or directly with the consumer. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And you will be receiving her, the website in the follow-up email as soon as this email starts to work. But thank you all for coming and we hope to see you at future events. And thank you, Professor Corellis, as well.
Thank you.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Bye.